Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a situation that is, frankly, unprecedented. We are looking at a highly volatile, massively escalating military conflict between two nuclear-armed neighbors, Pakistan and India. Based on in-depth reporting from Al Jazeera, we're going to unpack the events of May 10th. Specifically, we'll be focusing on Pakistan's perspective and their execution of a major military campaign launched right on the heels of Indian strikes. Now, this is a seriously complex conflict, but we're going to break the whole thing down visually, so let's get right into it.
Before we even look at the timeline or the specific targets, we really need to talk about the name of Pakistan's military response, Operation Bunyan Marsoos. There is some incredibly powerful cultural and religious weight behind these words. It's an Arabic phrase pulled directly from the Quran, and it literally translates to a structure made of lead or a solid cemented structure. In its original context, it symbolizes this idea of ultimate unity and impenetrable strength among believers fighting for a righteous cause. So by choosing this specific name, Islamabad was sending a very clear, very deliberate message about the sheer scale and resolve of its retaliation.
All right, to understand how we got to this point, here is the agenda for our explainer today. 1. A structure of lead. 2. The triggering escalation. 3. Targeting Indian military bases. 4. The aerial combat claims. And finally, 5. The brink of war.
So, let's start with Section 1, a structure of lead. Here is the absolutely crucial takeaway. These South Asian rivals are attacking each other on a scale we have literally never seen outside of their 4 previous wars. That is staggering. Look, regardless of the conflicting narratives on who exactly fired the very first shot on the morning of May 10th, the reality on the ground is just shocking. Both India and Pakistan are striking military bases across a massive swath of territory. We're talking way beyond the disputed region of Kashmir, which is, what usually defines their border skirmishes. This conflict has veered into entirely uncharted territory.
Moving on to Section 2, the triggering escalation.
Let's actually step back for a second and look at how incredibly fast this whole thing spiraled out of control. On April 22nd, a deadly assault in Pahalgam, inside Indian-administered Kashmir, killed 26 civilian tourists. India immediately blamed Pakistan-backed groups, which is a charge Pakistan vehemently denied. But in retaliation, just over 2 weeks later, on May 7th, India launches what it calls Operation Sindoor, striking inside Pakistan. And then, by May 9th and 10th, less than 3 weeks from that initial local incident, the situation totally degraded into intense cross-border drone warfare. India was using loitering munitions, basically suicide drones, to strike major Pakistani urban centers.
Now, when you look at India's May 7th strikes, Operation Sindoor, you see how wildly the narratives diverge. India's official stance is that the operation destroyed terrorist infrastructure and eliminated at least 100 fighters. But Pakistan's claim? It sharply contradicts that. Islamabad reported that these Indian strikes actually killed 33 people, including several children, and they outright denied that a single one of the casualties was a fighter.
Things escalated even further when India launched ballistic missiles aimed directly at major Pakistani military infrastructure. We're talking about critical bases here. Nur Khan Air Base, which is a huge operational and training hub near Rawalpindi, Murid Air Base, a vital forward operating base, and Rafiqui Air Base, which literally hosts active fighter squadrons. Striking these sovereign major military hubs, that was the direct, immediate catalyst for Pakistan's massive retaliation.
Which brings us to Section 3, targeting Indian military bases.
You really have to look at the immense strategic depth of Pakistan's Operation Bunyan Marsoos. They weren't just aiming at small border outposts. The targets they selected were massive. Udhampur, that's the headquarters of the Indian Army's Northern Command. Pathankot is central to India's frontline Air Force operations. Adampur houses an advanced Russian-made S-400 missile defense system. They also went after Nagrota and Bias, which are storage sites for the BrahMos missile, and even targeted the Bhuj Air Base way down in Gujarat. Pakistan intentionally went after some of the most sensitive, high-value military assets deep inside Indian territory.
So, what was the actual impact of all these strikes? Well, once again, we've got highly conflicting reports. Pakistan's military claimed that key bases like Udhampur and Pathankot were entirely destroyed. India, on the other hand, claimed their air defenses shot down most of the incoming projectiles, saying the facilities only suffered limited damage. To back that up, New Delhi even released time-stamped photos to directly push back on Pakistan's claims of total destruction.
But while missiles were hitting the ground, there was an equally intense battle reportedly happening right up in the sky. Section 4, the aerial combat claims.
Just look at this number, 5. This single number represents one of the boldest, most significant military claims made by Pakistan during this entire operation.
Let's break down why this is such a game changer. Pakistan's military claims that during these aerial dogfights, their air force successfully downed a total of 5 Indian jets. But the specifics are what's truly staggering. They claim this includes 3 French-made Rafale fighter jets. Now, to put that into perspective, the Rafale is widely considered the Indian Air Force's absolute most advanced aerial asset. Losing 3 of your top-tier jets in a single engagement, that is virtually unheard of in modern aerial warfare. It would be a devastating blow strategically and financially. Now, according to Al Jazeera's reporting, India has stayed completely silent on this, neither confirming nor denying these specific losses.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, the brink of war.
Unsurprisingly, this level of violence between 2 nuclear-armed nations triggered immediate, widespread international panic. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio had to urgently step in. He got directly on the phone with Pakistan's Army Chief, General Asim Munir, who's widely seen as the most powerful figure in the country, and India's Foreign Minister C.J. Shankar. Rubio's message was blunt: immediate de-escalation. He offered American assistance to help facilitate a dialogue before this situation spiraled into a total point-of-no-return war.
And experts are warning that the baseline of this entire conflict has now permanently shifted. Just look at what Kamran Bokhari from the New Lines Institute says. With Pindi being hit and other air bases such as the one in Sargodha, we are now looking at a much bigger scale war. Actually, think about what that means. By directly targeting these major operational hubs, both nations have crossed a very dangerous line. Going back to the old status quo, it's going to be incredibly difficult now.
Plus, there's a very practical, tactical reality to what just went down. South Asia's security analyst Mohammed Faisal pointed out something crucial. Over these 3 days of intense conflict, both militaries basically just stress-tested each other. They significantly mapped each other's air defense systems. They now have real-world, updated intelligence on exactly where the blind spots are and how the other side responds to multi-layered attacks. Why should we care about this? Because it means if there's a next round of escalation, it won't be a shot in the dark. It'll be driven by this new, highly lethal data.
Which leaves us all with one pressing question. With drone swarms, ballistic missiles, and advanced fighter jets engaging well beyond the usual battlegrounds of Kashmir, can this cycle of escalation actually be stopped before it becomes irreversible? Operation Bunyan Marsoos showed us a massive, rapid response capability. The physical damage might be fiercely debated, but the strategic threshold, that has undeniably been crossed. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Definitely keep all of this in mind as the world watches what unfolds next in South Asia.